Did you ever get bored or impatient because something was not turning out the way you wanted or as quickly as you wanted? Well, good news. Today, I'm going to give you something that will enable you to grasp whatever is causing you impatience or frustration. In the same way that you grasp this, right? You grasp it. It's now in your hand and you have control over it. So let's go. The thing we're going to talk about is called process. So tell me, what is this? What is that? That's a seed, isn't it? And what is this? Well, that's an apple, isn't it? Ha. So this is not just an apple, it is a complete process. And so is this tiny little seed a complete process. Now, I know people, when they see this, they say, it's a seed. And they get impatient. Why isn't that seed a tree? I see this and I see it as a tree. It'll take some time, but this is all part of a process. So if you take anything, right, it develops. Even the thing you think is not developing, you know, the physical universe is actually mostly nothing, with electrons just moving around. All these particles are moving around like our planets through space. It's mostly emptiness. So everything is undergoing processes. And if we can identify the process, we have an ability to look at it and see where we fit in and how we can control it. Don't you think? So if you'd be, let's say, not even a caveman, because I think cavemen observed the way things grew and they got a sense that there's a process. But let's say you are a baby and you look at the world, you really don't understand. You have to understand everything from the beginning, from the very beginning. When I had my first baby, and I just watched how a baby, an infant, looks at itself. You know, an infant can look at its hand when it first comes out, doesn't realize the hand is connected. It's part of the baby himself. But it looks at this hand moving, and it just doesn't realize that this hand is part of his body. It takes time. That little baby has to learn that this hand is part of its arm is connected. It can actually begin to control as it learns that it's connected. In the same way, you will be able to control the things you discover as processes when you can analyze and discover their processes. So you know then what are their different specific stages, and then you can begin to engineer an intervention. You can begin to discover, to work at finding out how to influence their processes in the way that you want. So if you take it into your personal life, when you see something's happening that you're impatient about, or it's frustrating, if you just treat it as an object, it's an event, what can you do? But when you actually understand the process, if you analyze the process, then you have ways you can begin to explore how to influence the process. Because we, as human beings, the science of chemistry and physics examined matter, so we could create an atomic reactor, right? We took matter, which seemed to be so stable, and discovered the processes of its instability and which exact matter would be most unstable. These are all processes. And then we found out what process we could apply to that instability to create atomic energy to release the instability in a controlled manner. So imagine you take that parallel and you say, I want to approach this person or event or a combination of things that is frustrating me, and I'm going to now examine the process. And once I break it down into a sequence or a combination of specific elements, then I have the ability to talk about it, to analyze it, and to plan a way, experiment on how to take care of it so that it is it develops in the direction that I want. Think of one thing today that this could apply to. One thing, a person, an event, an incident, a condition that you're frustrated with, you want it to change. Have you ever really sat to analyze its process and see where can you intervene and take control, at least to influence, if not to get exactly what you want, at least to get more of what you want, right? If you look at this apple, I mean, it seems complete, but actually it began as a seed, right? It began as a seed, and then it sprouted, and then it grew into a tree, and then the tree had branches, leaves, created flowers. The flowers then developed into fruit, and then the fruit is going to be eaten, and those seeds are going to be scattered, and we begin the whole thing again. And that is something that humankind discovered, and that's how we developed agriculture. And if you'd be a farmer, then you would look at every step of that process and want to see how you can affect it. Isn't that exciting? I think that's very, very exciting. So I have a question for you. And the question is, what process, what has frustrated you today that you are going to examine as a process? And in the comments below, share how looking at something that was frustrating you and seeing it as a process has given you a new approach that you didn't have before of possibly influencing it to get what you want. Isn't that exciting? Enjoy this day. If you enjoyed this presentation, click subscribe. See, I have difficulty sometimes saying my words, and so I go into a process of training my mouth afterwards. Click subscribe if this interested you. If you're a business owner and you want to develop your process, call me. And in any case, I am Nitzan Gable, Exit Strong.